we promised some high-end intellectual content here. We're going to deliver it. Let's no more. No more delay the inevitable. I think we need to stare directly into whatever light is coming out of this. Do we have James Lindsay's diagram?
Oh yes.
So anybody listen to this as a podcast later, Lindsay's tweet is Leftism Explained, and then he has a picture of this like hand-drawn diagram that he's put together, which is got some like there's a circle, and it's very it's got, well, Dan, why don't you take us through this? What's I see Hegel's dialectical what's the word there? Hegel's dialectical.
He tried to spell cosmogony, and he spelled it wrong.
There we go.
You've got this circle. It's moving in a cycle counterclockwise. At the top, at the 12 o'clock position, you've got the ideal reason, the father, in roughly the 8 o'clock position, you've got the material, the state, and also, which is also the sun, and then you have and then in the 4 o'clock position, you've got Geist, society / culture, spirit. Yeah, and it's I'm not sure what the motion here is. Whatever this is has not been approved by an ecumenical council. This is Hegelian Trinitarianism of some kind, and then and that's only on the left. On the right, you've got this kind of upward spiral of like that's, I think, meant to be a timeline, and it's meant to sort of illustrate that. It's like an upward helix that's meant to sort of, I guess, illustrate the dialectical process of history, sort of continually spiraling back from one pole to another. I don't know. It's this is a lot.
When you first sent this to me, I almost had this urge of, do you want me to redesign this so it's legible? And then I took a second look at it, going, "Oh hell no! I'm not even going to offer that."
Yeah. So as the sort of upward spiral that says pre-modern, modern, and postmodern, and there are little spirals going for each of them. In the pre-modern, there's something about early faith, church, Reformation, and then there's Hegel / ideal. This is in modern. Marx / material, Lukács / cultural, and he really likes. Yeah, he does this a few points in the diagram where after where he'll put German words in parentheses, I guess it makes it sound more sinister. So he's got Geist in there. Then in postmodern, there's woke / ideal, stakeholder capitalism material, and then some question marks. And it says, and the whole thing is labeled dialectical spiral through history. So that's leftism explained.
Oh man, my eyes have been opened.
Yeah, once you see that, right? I mean, like, you just get it, right? I mean, you understand leftism. What you? We'll also open the floor to anybody else with a thought about this, but like, what's going on here? What does he think is going on here? Like, what does he imagine that this is demonstrates or explains or illustrates? Or I don't like. I guess I just keep imagining him like drawing this on a napkin and being like, "Do you understand now?" Be like, "Oh, okay, yeah, no, it's very clear now. Thank you, James. This is good."
Okay, James, can I take those plates away for you? Are you still working there? As he's drawing on a restaurant napkin. Well, what do you think? Yeah, I mean, I made nothing of that, but I mean, you know a little more about the terms involved. Like, I believe he's read more than me, maybe, but
well, he reads, what is it, like 8 hours a day, twice a week.
Well, he actually once
like
he actually claimed that was it the state legislature or something that he was giving Zoom testimony at. We watched this in our Lindsay episode. He claimed to believe that he read critical race theory 16 hours a day, which is amazing because he seems to spend more time than that on Twitter, and he is I assume he sleeps at least a little bit at some point.
Yeah, I think
Baby's Blood is a nice upper.
I think he was like, and I'm actually currently reading 3 books right now as I talk to you over Zoom. Is basically what his claim amounted to. But yeah, so what do y'all think is that he's starting to get at, I guess? Like, what's the point of this? Is it just I'm smart and I understand leftism, or is it making a new point? I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, that's a good way to ask the question. I don't know the answer.
I might say, like, on the one hand, this is like a new iteration of something that like something the right has been doing for a while. There's a book, an old book, I think from the 50s or so, called "Ideas Have Consequences" by William Weaver, who was a Southern like literary critic and also like a huge defender of like the old order of the South. He thought slavery was really cool and good, actually. But he writes this book called "Ideas Have Consequences," where that's really the starting point of this habit that has become endemic to the right. And I should add, the left has taken it on too, and usually with bad consequences. But where it's what I would call like it's a genealogical rhetorical strategy, right? You find a place to pin, like, okay, this is where it went wrong. This is the guy who fucked everything up. For Weaver, it was William of Ockham. He was like, nominalism bad. We started with nominalism, everything went to shit. And I guess I think there's other people who've said that who've said. I don't think Lindsay's being in any original here. I mean, I think there's other like right wing shitheads who've said that this started with Hegel. And it's it's a. I don't know. I understand them. I understand why you'd make the move. It's sort of sexier to say it went bad with Hegel than to say it went bad with Marx. You look a little more sophisticated. Hegel's very hard to read.
Yeah, right. So I mean, I think some of this goes back to a not terribly right wing person, but like Karl Popper wrote a book called "The Open Society and Its Enemies," where he goes after Hegel in like a really like over the top crazy way, like he and sort of blames Hegel for Marx in a way, and like he does weird things in that book, like there's like, well, here's this thing that Hegel says, and if where he says like spirit, you substitute race. Now it's like a Nazi thing. It's like, well, okay, but like you could do that with literally anything.
I had to read part 1 of that book for a class that was on the Republic. And that was, and then this is like Greek 300 whatever. But then it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna read some criticism now too. So I'm gonna make you all read Karl Popper, and it's not because I like him. It was like, yeah, but no, Popper does this. Yeah, no, you're right though. That Popper does this move too, and Popper's writing as basically a liberal, as someone who but yeah, he's that this is like, okay, yeah, we're tracing. What's really interesting to me, and I is that genealogy, like doing genealogy this way is basically always a defensive maneuver.
Yeah.
You're you're always doing it from a position of like, I'm if I can just locate the place, if I can just find something, if I can just link this to something in the past that was wrong, I can avoid reckoning with and avoid reading, whatever is being said right now. It becomes, it's a very learned seeming way of not actually doing the reading.
Yeah. And yes, shout out to Joe Brimmer's comment. If you replace all of the verbs with murder, it sounds bad. Which I do think gets at what's wrong with some of what Popper says there. But yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. I mean, like, this is this is a way, right? So I think there's a sort of like lowbrow version of the genealogical move where there's like a certain kind of conservative who's obsessed with the fact that Margaret Sanger was like a racist and into eugenics, because that shows anybody, that like anybody who supports, abortion rights or family planning now, like is like tainted,
Right.
Tainted by that. And as you say, there are left versions of this where you say, well, such and such was influenced by such and such who's a fascist, so there you go, right? We're done here, and yeah, I think the way you put it was really good, right? I mean, it sort of frees you from the obligation of having to actually reckon with things that people say instead of just sort of tracing like what you say back to something bad. So we could just dismiss it. I mean, one thing I guess you sort of addressed this a little bit. So one initial thing before we even get back to the Lindsay diagram that I find a little bit odd about this is that, okay, so there are obviously antecedents before Lindsay, but I mean, he's the sort of more recent guru of this. And I think he's convinced a lot of people on the right that Hegel is the source of everything bad. And it's like, when debating Charlie Kirk last year, there's the point where he asked what I thought about Marx, and I was like, well, I mean, I don't think he was like, infallibly correct about everything, but like, and I started going through stuff that I think Marx was basically right about. And I said the theory of history is like, oh, that's basically Hegel's, right? I was like, what? No. But then he's like, no, but Marx was, I think he actually said like president of the Young Hegelians, which is kind of a funny idea that they had a president. But one thing that hit me about that later, I was thinking back to, is like, is this kind of backwards? It's like, oh, you've really caught Marx if you showed that like he's influenced by Hegel. I mean, like, isn't Marx supposed to be the primordially evil one, and
Right.
and the conservative view of the universe? Like why is like it's not obvious to me why Hegel should be more bad than Marx to them. So
I mean, yeah, I think like, the cynic in me says that it's because the cynic in me says it's because Hegel's much harder to read and nobody's going to do it. But which is true. I mean, I look, as someone who has made the attempt on phenomenology of spirit several times, and I think the farthest I got was 70 pages or so. It's true. It's hard shit. It's
which is also a weird fit with the idea that this is the thing that's influencing everybody to evil. It's like,
yeah.
well,
but yeah, I guess mystifying the original sin almost makes it easier to, I guess, to Dan's point, to scapegoat, right? Because you're not going to read it. So if I tell you or you're not going to understand it, I'm not going to understand it. So if we paint it as evil, then it's even harder to fight back against that, right? Like if you're really scared of something and then it's really confusing to read also, it's probably any conservative that picks up phenomenology of spirit or whatever is probably, you know, going to be spooked, is my guess, you know, even more than they would reading Marx, I guess. Maybe kind of to Dan's point.
Yeah,
maybe that's part of the point, maybe.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. But so the one other thing I did want to say about this though is that it's one of the things about this diagram that's particularly confusing is it's like, okay, on the left you have ideas that are being attributed to Hegel, that like there's some sort of equivalent of I guess this is attributed. Yeah, Hegel's dialect, not only right, it's not even dialectical, it's dialectic cosmogony, with, you know, the father, you know, father is ideal, son is material, you know, society, culture as the Holy Spirit. That, so it's like, okay, so far I understand. So far this is some. I mean, you know, I don't understand, but you know what I mean. Like, so far I understand what he's doing, right? That this is like he's like explaining some insidious Hegel ideas that are then going to be influencing Marxism, and then like all of like everything that he thinks of leftism today, which includes stakeholder capitalism, but you know, whatever, like is all just like watered down Marxism. So it's like that's what I think is going on when I read the left side. But when I read the right side, the dialectical spiral through history, now it's really confusing, because it's like, well, whose ideas are they supposed to be a representation of? This kind of just sounds like some sort of process that James Lindsay himself actually thinks is going on.
Yeah, it's and it's, I mean, it's pretty clear. Yeah, it's pretty clear that, like, you know, you've got like 3 points on each, I guess, level of the spiral, and I guess those are supposed to map on to what's happening on the left. Like, early faith is ideal, and that like the formation of the church is like material, and then the Reformation is like culture or spirit. And I think you're right that like he's sort of pulling this out of his own ass, because this doesn't map onto like. I mean, I'm like racking my brain for like I guess the closest thing I can think of is like this book called The Fourth Turning that
Yes.
that spawned a really excellent play, but played by Will Arbery, called Heroes of the Fourth Turning, and people should read it if they have it, because it's a really superb work of theater. But I have the original book. It's here somewhere. I found it. Yeah, no, I've got it right here. It's by William Strauss and Neil Howe, that has this sort of cyclic view of history, that, you know, you have where like you have like, you know, a high period and an awakening period and an unraveling period, and these kind of like 20-year cycles. And I don't know, to me, there are two genuinely interesting things about this book. One is that the play is the later play by Will Arbery is really good, and the second is that one of the two authors of this insane book went on to also is one of the founders of the Capitol Steps. Yeah, no,
all right.
like which in some occult way like justifies every opinion I've ever had about the Capitol Steps.
That is not a connection I would have expected. All right.
No, truly we live in an age of wonders.
My mind is blown.
But he wants to do this kind of like cyclic view of history. Well, you people probably seen the meme that like some of the like, and I think he's sort of associating himself here, I think, with the kind of, we might call it like the atavistic right, you know, people like Jordan Peterson and like Bronze Age pervert and those personalities. That's often the crowd that with which this sort of cyclic view of history is associated. And it's like there's like a heavy overlap with Jordan Peterson there, and this may be where the the compulsion toward inscrutable diagrams is coming from as well, because Peterson is of course the great master of totally inscrutable diagrams.
Oh,
Ben.
yeah. Actually, we should do a whole thing sometime where we just go through a bunch of the diagrams from Maps of Meaning, which are just amazing. Like it's all like spirally dragon, like
The dragon of chaos is the mother.
yeah. But it's like the problem is actually, as I was trying to come up with the joking example, I realized that what I was going to say, like the connections between the parts sounded too obvious. And it's like the whole thing that makes the Maps of Meanings diagrams fun is that the connection between like the parts and what it's supposed to illustrate are just totally incomprehensible.
Just the most unhinged, coked up Jungianism you've ever fucking seen. Yeah, no, I have a particular grudge against this because like one of my favorite books. It was written by my advisor's advisor, is called How to Kill a Dragon, and it's a wonderful, it's a really wonderful, closely read study of dragon slaying myths in Indo-European languages, and it's very, it's very rigorous and says real shit. And then all these guys come along, they're like, yeah, actually, if you're killing a dragon, if you're killing the dragon, you're conquering the forces of chaos. It's like no. If you're killing the dragon, you're killing the guy who's hoarded all the gold. That's sort of the basic gist of this. Like dragons do one thing: they stop wealth from circulating.
Yeah, no, this is very true.
That's Tolkien is one of the people who first says this. He in his essay on Beowulf, he's like, what dragons do is they hoard gold, they stop wealth from circulating, and that's why you got to kill them to get people's money back. I was like, this sounds surprisingly prescriptive for somebody who voted as Tory as J.R.R. Tolkien did.
Yeah, that is interesting that you could that you can forcibly expropriate wealth because it's not circulated. You have been watching free public content from Give Them an Argument. To access every single episode of the show, the main show on Monday nights, all of the streams, all of the debate breakdowns, all of the patron-exclusive postgames on Monday nights, all of the patron-exclusive bonus episodes every week, and much, much more, go to patreon.com/Ben Burgis. I cannot resist ending this with, don't be foolish.